Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% US-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
What is up, my Ethos friends, and welcome to another edition of DFS Today. This is your Wednesday, December 8th edition. I am your host, Santino Cacone. We have ourselves a whopper of a Wednesday. Didn't plan on that pun, but here we are. A 13-game massive slate here. Many teams on the back-to-back, front end, back end, whatever you want to say there. But, yeah, we have a big one here that we will dive right into. And before we do, we got some awesome news here about Thrive Fantasy, guys. So come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this NBA season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based on how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Thrive has over 50,000 in guaranteed prizes weekly for NBA and has awarded over $6 million. So come on down and use the promo code ETHOS, that's ETHOS, when you sign up today, and you will receive a 100% instant first deposit match up to $100. You can download the Thrive Fantasy app in the App Store or the Play Store, or by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop today. If you deposit $10, you can get 2 free $20 NBA tickets. Deposit $100 and receive 4 free $20 NBA tickets. Obviously, plus the instant 100% match deposit up to $100 for new users. Can't get any better than this, guys. Go take advantage of that right now. Deposit 10 again. You get 2 free $20 NBA tickets. Deposit 100, you get 4 free $20 NBA tickets. And that is only at Thrive Fantasy. All right. Let's take a deep dive right into this 13-game slate here. We're going to run right through them. The first game on the docket, we have the Philadelphia 76ers taking on whatever is left of the Charlotte Hornets. We have a 217.5 game total. The Sixers are 6.5-point road favorites. This game tips off at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the injury report, we have, for the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey is questionable. Grant Riller is out. Ben Simmons is out. On the Hornets side of the ball, LaMelo, McDaniels, Plumlee, Rozier, Ish Smith, all out for health and safety protocols. We know where a lot of value is going to be lying. I'll start with the Sixers side. They are the away team. Embiid is going to be in fantastic shape. He is very expensive on this slate, but they don't have another center there. PJ Washington, Nick Richards are going to be his primary defenders. If this game can stay competitive, Joel Embiid is certainly in play for a monster of a night. Outside of him, I mean, Tobias Harris is in a good spot. I'd rather just go to Embiid if you have the money. Tobias Harris, though, is in a good spot. We're looking at Maxey. He's out. or questionable, I should say. And Seth Curry, Shake Milton, value should be had there. I like those two guys with Embiid, a little bit of Tobias Harris there as well. On the other side of the ball, a guy I prefer more to Tobias Harris, similar price tag, Gordon Hayward. We're going to see a lot of point Gordon in this one. Their 2 point guards are out for this one. Gordon had 9 assists in the last game. He put up 36 fantasy points, which is pretty much his value right here. But he only shot 5 of 19 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. If he shot a little bit better, that could have been a nice 40 and a half point game there. And this was against the same Sixers team. So I do see a little bit of point Gordon again. And that's a good price tag for him, 7-6, with all of these people out on the protocols. Outside of him, PJ Washington. I mean, there's no Plumlee here. PJ Washington's going to play. It's a tough matchup against Embiid, but he did pretty solid last game. He shot 6 of 17 from the field, 42 fantasy points. So he played 32 minutes. He's going to see a lot of time again. And then Cody Martin, James Bouknight, Nick Richards, they all get a bump as well. And their price tags are pretty solid here, 5K, 3.8, and 3.3. They all get a bump in this matchup. Nick Richards got to play because obviously there's no Plumlee. They need some size on Embiid as well. So all 3 of these guys are in play for me. There's a lot of value to be had on Charlotte with all these people out in the protocols. All right, let's jump on over to the next game of the night. We have the Chicago Bulls taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a 208 game total, and it is a pick'em. On the injury report, we have Alex Caruso as doubtful, Javonte Green, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, DeMar DeRozan out for the Bulls. For the Cavs, we have Taco Fall out, Colin Sexton out, Dean Wade as questionable. Jump on over to the Bulls. Zach LaVine is in a fine spot here with no DeRozan, no Caruso. He has 14 assists in the last 2 games, playing a lot better. That price tag is pretty much baked in, though. At 10.5, he's not a tournament guy for me. He's more of a cash guy because the price is baked in. He jumped up $1,000. They're baking in the price without DeRozan there, so the upside isn't huge, but he's pretty safe. He should be pretty solid here. I do like Lonzo Ball. I do like Derek Jones Jr. I do like Ayo. I think all 3 of those guys are solid plays here. Again, no DeRozan, no Caruso, no White, no Green. Going to be a lot of minutes for those guys here. The last 2 guys, and Lonzo just gets more ball handling responsibility, more shot making without DeRozan there. So I like him for his price tag, and I think Jones and Ayo showed that they're going to play a lot of minutes. Troy Brown Jr. is going to be in the rotation too, probably mid-20s minutes, and you could take a shot at him at 3.3, though I do just prefer if you can get the $600 to pay out for Ayo or $1,000 to pay out for Derek Jones Jr. They're definitely going to be in the rotation for about 25 to 30-plus minutes here. All right, on the other side of the ball, I'm looking mostly at Mobley, Markkanen. I think those 2 guys have a very solid matchup here. Okoro for his cheap value. Dean questionable. There should be extra minutes to go around for Markkanen to play the 4 and the 3. Mobley get extra minutes there. Their price tags are real solid, and Markkanen's been beating that price tag a lot. He's still not getting over 6K, so that's we can still look at him here. Mobley is just a very, very rock solid guy. He's hit or miss sometimes. In some games, he's going to go off on rebounding. Without a power forward, really, for the Bulls right now, there's every chance that his size is a big factor in this one, and he can grab 14-plus rebounds in this matchup. So I do like Evan Mobley here at that 6.4 price tag. And I mentioned Okoro, 3,400. He's going to play. He's not huge on upside. He's not a scorer, but another guy you can throw in there at that cheap price tag.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection. It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
Right, jumping on to the next game of the night, we have Washington taking on Detroit in Detroit. We have a 209 game total, and the Wizards are 5.5-point road favorites. On the injury report, we have for the Wizards, Davis Bertans is questionable. Rui, Thomas Bryant, both out. On the Pistons side of the ball, we have Diallo as questionable, Corey Joseph as probable, and Kelly Olynyk as out. I'll jump on to the Washington side of the ball. Not really too interested in anyone in particular on this side of the ball. To be honest, I think they're all just really solid. If I had to look somewhere, it'd be in the front court with Hero and Gafford. They could prove to beat those values, but for the most part, this team is just very well balanced, very well rounded. There are people that beat their price tag on random nights, but it's not an exact science, and I'm going to leave it alone, even in a solid matchup here. Same thing on the other side of the ball. Not a matchup I specifically want to target. I would look Cade Cunningham's way, but I think we have better options around that same price tag, so I'm not really going to look him too much. And I think everybody's price tag is pretty solid. Similar to what I mentioned on the other side of the ball, I would take a look at Isaiah Stewart. I think that he is too cheap there. Outside of that, pretty much going to leave this game alone. I'll look at the front court options on both sides, but that is it. Jumping on over to the last game at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the New York Knicks taking on the Indiana Pacers, a 213 game total. The Pacers are 4-point home favorites. On the injury report, we don't have anybody for the Knicks, and the Pacers have Justin Holiday, TJ McConnell, TJ Warren, all out. Right, we'll start with the Knicks. They've played these guys a couple times already. Julius hasn't been as good as you want that price tag. Gonna leave him alone. I think we have a ton of options on the slate, I should say, around that price tag. I need someone who's gonna bang out 60 for 10K here, without thinking about it. But besides him, I'm looking at RJ Barrett, Derrick Rose, and Mitch Robinson. I think those three are fairly priced. Barrett and Rose haven't been the greatest lately, but 5K in a good matchup here, where it's going to be up and down. Not a lot of defense on the Indiana side. I'll take some shots at that to beat that very reasonable price tag, just 5.1 and 5.3. Those two can definitely beat it. Mitch Rob, he came off the bench in the last one, and he had himself a game. I wonder if it sticks. If not, we'll see. But he had himself a near 40-point fantasy effort with a double-double here, 11 and 14. The last time he got a double-double was November 17th. So big game off the bench here. We'll see if that sticks. 4,200 either way. Makes sense. He might get a lot of minutes not against Miles Turner, so that'll only help him. I don't mind going out there here in tournaments, especially if he comes off the bench again. I don't think he's going to get too much ownership here. On the other side of the ball, we have Indiana. And we know that most of this team is on the trade block. We heard Sabonis, LeVert, Turner, all mentioned. I'm assuming Brogdon, if an offer comes around. That's nice. All their big guns, right? They're available for trade if anybody wants them. I'm not going to really go to Sabonis or Brogdon in this one. I think Turner and LeVert do have solid matchups. Don't love the 6K price tags, but I think LeVert has a higher upside. He can beat that price tag. He has been playing really well lately. Turner can as well. Nerlens Noel, Mitch Rob, solid defenders, but haven't been the greatest this year, even when they've been healthy. So I think both of them could beat this price tag. I'll go more LeVert, but Turner's in my player pool as well. And that's pretty much it for this side of the ball. We'll jump on over to the 7:30 games. The first one, we have the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Miami Heat. We have a 214.5 game total. The Bucks are 7-point road favorites. On the injury report, we have for the Bucks, DiVincenzo, Brooke Lopez, Semi Ojeleye out. George Hill, questionable. The Heat, Bam, Butler, Markieff Morris, Victor Oladipo, all out. Caleb Martin as questionable. So the big guns are out for the Heat in this one. These guys just played each other the other night. We've been seeing that a couple games already. Without Butler, without Bam, obviously Giannis is in a fantastic spot here. But he missed a few games with calf soreness last week. He only played 27 in the game before this. They won by 8. I can't imagine him getting thrown in there for 35 minutes in a game without Bam or Butler. The Heat are going to play, yeah, but in a game without Bam or Butler, though he's in a great matchup, 11.6K, going to be tough for me to justify paying him if he's not going to be guaranteed 35 minutes. So leave him out there. I'm probably not going to have much exposure to anyone on this side of the ball without the big guns on the other side. It could, even if it's close, they might see a deeper rotation if they can here. So I'm not going to have too much exposure here to them, even though they did play really well the other game. Though Giannis wasn't in that, so changes things up. If you look at their scores, people are going to be like, oh, Bobby Portis put up a hell of a game against these guys. 53 fantasy points, 19 and 16. That was without Giannis there, and they still won by 22 points without Giannis. So got to think that a lot of these guys aren't going to get as much run here as well. So I'm gonna leave it mostly alone unless we see something change on the other side of the ball. Mentioned no Bam, no Butler, Lowry, Hero make a lot of sense. I still like going to them at their price tag. I prefer Hero for the upside, but they're both in play here. And Dwayne Dedmon, he had himself a very good game against the Bucks a couple nights ago as well. His price tag's jumping up a little bit at 4.8, but he's still in a very solid spot here. As pretty much the last remaining big man, he has to play a solid chunk of minutes. He's been playing minutes in the 20s lately, and he's bringing back value. So he'll be in my player pool. The upside isn't crazy, though. He's just an option. All right, jumping on over to the next game, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Toronto Raptors. We have a 208 game total, which is tied for the lowest of the night with the game we mentioned before, the Bulls and Cavs. And we have the Raptors as 7-point home favorites. We don't have anybody in injury report for the Thunder. Whoa. And the Raptors have OG and Kemberg as out. We will start with the Thunder here. Not in love with anybody in this matchup, to be honest. This team is just very weird lately. I don't even know who's going to start at center. Probably James Robinson Earl. Him and Bazley would be the two options I'd look at just because they are under 4K. But they haven't been playing great lately. We'll see if anybody suddenly misses the game pregame or when the game is about to roll around, like Derek Favors, Mike Muscala, any of these guys. We'll see what happens with the rotation. But as we stand right now, Bazley and Earl would be the two guys I'd look at for value. Outside of that, not really in love with anybody. And even those two are just fringe value plays because we have a lot of value on this slate. On the other side of the ball, not huge on most, like Van Vliet, Siakam, like them. I think the price tag's a little bit high for me. Barnes is now in the 8-1 range too. I'd rather just pay up to get a Siakam if I can. It's only $700 more now. We still have no OG or Birch, and that's where some value lies with a Gary Trent Jr. at 6'2". Now that he's back and running. Precious has had a couple good games in a row. We can look his way at 46. And Boucher as a wild card at 3,400. We still have no Burke. We know he's going to play a little bit, hoping for that 20 minutes, but even if not, if he gets high teens, he could still bring back value here. He did it in the last game at 14-6 against Washington in only 18 minutes. So those three guys I'm looking at for value. Precious makes a lot of sense at 4.6 now that he's playing really well, or at back-to-back couple good games, I should say. And if that continues, if he's playing over 30 minutes like he's been, 4,600 should be beatable in this matchup. All right, we're going to jump on over to the first game that starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Houston Rockets. We have a 225 game total, and the Nets are 6.5-point home or road favorites. The Nets are on the back end of a back-to-back. I forgot to mention the Knicks were also on the back end of a back-to-back here. And I don't believe, the Sixers are on the front end, and I believe that's all we have so far of the games mentioned. On the injury report for the Nets, we don't have anybody submitted because they are on the back end of a back-to-back. On the Rockets, we have Usman, Jalen Green, Porter Jr., House, all out. We'll start with the Nets. And if we're going to pay up, I prefer Harden here in the revenge game narrative. 11-2, he's $100 cheaper than KD, but he's going to want something to prove. He's going to come out firing, come out on all cylinders just in Houston. I think he wants to make a statement here. I know they've already played, but I can see him anytime he's playing Houston. He's going to have a little extra edge, extra motivation here. So if you're going to pay up, I would pay up for Harden here. Outside of that, game could get out of hand. We're missing a couple people on the other side of the ball, and they're still not the greatest. Houston is on a run here, though, so we shall see. But Bruce Brown, DeAndre Bembry, Nick Claxton could see extra run here. They all have very reasonable price tags at 4-3, 3-6, and 3-2, and I like that. We might see James Johnson on the back end of a back-to-back miss. We could see LaMarcus Aldridge, though he's been playing throughout the back-to-backs. If Aldridge is ready to go and it's close, Aldridge at 5-5 makes sense too, but I'd prefer those other guys just in case this game does get out of hand and they run them out there a little bit. Again, more run there would be beneficial for them, so I like going at the cheap options outside of Harden. On the other side of the ball, Christian Wood is in a very solid matchup. Nearly 10K. Going to be tough to get him in a lot of lineups, but he's been playing really well his last 4 games that he actually finished. Back-to-back games over 41 points. A couple games before that, he had 2 games over 60 points. This is going to be a good matchup for him. At 9-8, he'll be in my player pool. I won't have too much exposure of him because I do prefer some other options a little bit higher that are a little bit safer as well with higher upside. But Wood makes for a nice contrarian play over there. I don't know if I'll get a lot of exposure. Outside of him, Jayshawn Tate, Eric Gordon, Garrison Matthews, all been playing really well. Kevin Porter Jr. is out for this one. Jalen Green's out. They're going to be shuffling around the backcourt like they've been doing. These 3 guys should start, get a lot of opportunity to both score with all these shots opening up, handle the ball, and make plays. And that's what they've been doing at their respective price tags. Matthews and Gordon present the better value for the big discount there. But Tate's still in play in this matchup. He's going to be all over the floor, guarding both KD, Harden, making plays. I like him here too, but Gordon and Matthews would be the higher value plays for their respective price tags. All right, jumping on to the next game of the night, we have Dallas Mavericks taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. We have a 215.5 game total. The Grizzlies are 4.5-point home favorites. On the injury report, we don't have anybody for Dallas because they are on the back end of a back-to-back. And the Grizzlies have Kyle Anderson as doubtful, Brandon Clark, Sam Merrill, Ja Morant, Zaire Williams all out. We'll start with Dallas. And if I'm being honest here, I'm probably not going to read rostering anybody yet. We'll see exactly what the injury report mentions because, again, we don't know what they're going to do on the back end of a back-to-back. But as of right now, I'm assuming everybody's playing. That's likely off because we know Porzingis is always in and out. We'll see exactly. But for now, no one's on the injury report. I really don't want to touch this team. I think everybody's price tag is where it should be. But we'll see if that changes. On the other side of the ball, everybody's getting a little bit bumped now. We've been seeing a few games without Ja Morant. Desmond Bane is now 6,500. He's been playing really well. Brooks is up there. Tyus Jones is up there. Jackson finally hit the 7K mark. He's in the 7K marks now. Or he went down a little bit. But I'm mainly sticking to Steven Adams, who's been playing better lately. Steven Adams is coming alive at 4,900. Back-to-back games, we have 34-point double-double, and then a 44 fantasy point double-double, 17 and 16. That's interesting. If he can continue to do this, especially in a matchup against Dallas, whose front court options aren't the greatest, Steven Adams is definitely in play here, under 5K. That's very solid. And DeAnthony Melton at 45. He's one of the few guys that his price tag is not rising considerably. He's actually losing his price tag, which makes sense because he's not getting a ton of run here, but we still don't have Ja. We still don't likely have Kyle Anderson, who's doubtful. Braden Clark's out, shuffles a lot of the rotation around. He should still play in the mid-20s or so. We know his upside, even in limited minutes, can beat that price tag. So those two guys I'll keep in my player pool. I like them. All right, next game of the night we have at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, still Utah Jazz taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. We have a 220.5 game total, and the Wolves are 8.5 point, or the Jazz, I'm sorry, are 8.5 point road favorites. This is the highest spread of the night right now. On the injury report, we have for the Wolves, Patrick Beverley, Jalen Noel, D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, all questionable. Towns is expected to play. Possibly Russell isn't. Beverley is, right as of right now. On the Jazz, we have Hassan Whiteside as questionable and Azubuike as out. We'll start with the Jazz. I'm really mainly looking at Mitchell. I think that's still a solid price tag. He hasn't been beating it lately, but 8,700 in this type of matchup, especially fast-paced matchup, highest spread of the night, or game total of the night. I like Mitchell here and Conley. Those are the two guys I'm mainly looking at. If Towns doesn't play, Gobert gets a big bump there. But as of right now, Mitchell, Conley for his solid price tag is still 5.5, and he's been mainly beating that. 4 of the last 5 games and counting, he's been beating that. And I expect that to continue again here. He's averaging 28 fantasy points on the year, so his average is still just beating that as is. And the matchup is good here. So I like Conley, Mitchell, for his solidness and price tag that doesn't even hit 9K at the moment. On the other side of the ball, we got to figure out what's going on, but Russell is doubtful. I would expect Towns to play. Beverly is expected to play. And we'll say Ant-Man, 8-4, no Russell. That's a big boost to him. This is a tough matchup, but he should see 20 to 25 shots in this one. And that type of volume at 8-4 is something we can take on, even if it's the Utah Jazz. Patrick Beverley, he's expected to play in this one. He might draw the start at point guard without Russell here, 4,800. I don't love him because it's 4,800. I wish it was 41, but it'll still be in my player pool because of the opportunity that he's going to have likely without Russell. I know it's his first game back, so I won't go too crazy on him, but that is still a solid opportunity under 5K. And Malik Beasley, 4,200. He's still going to have a ton of a nice role here. Russell's likely not playing. He's going to get 25 to 30 minutes or so, 4,200. They could be losing this game, and he's never one that shies away from shooting. So Malik Beasley, another option at 4,200. And Naz Reid would definitely be an option at 3,800 if Towns doesn't play. All right, jumping on over to the next game. It's the last game at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Denver Nuggets taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. We have a 219 game total, and the Nuggets are 4-point road favorites. On the injury report, we have Bol as doubtful, PJ Dozier, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Austin Rivers out, Bones Highland doubtful, and Nikola Jokic as probable. On the Pelicans, we have Zion, Trey Williamson, Dalton Holmes, all out, and Josh Hart as questionable. We'll start with the Nuggets. Jokic is going to be in a smash spot if he does play, and he is probable here, so I would expect him to play. Him and Embiid are going to be in very prime spots to deliver. I think Embiid slightly more, but they're both going to be in fantastic spots to deliver here. And Jokic is squarely in my player pool comparatively to a lot of the other high-priced guys that I haven't really talked about and glossed over. So I like him here. Monte Morris, Campazzo, both in my player pool as well. Monte Morris has been playing really solid lately, and he's only 5K still. His price tag went down after $100 after a 37-point fantasy output. He's been consistently being solid here. Two out of the last 3 games, he's had at least 19 points, actual points scored, and took double-digit shots. He's kind of hit or miss, but for 5K, it's a very nice matchup. Might not see Josh Hart in it, who is the best defender on the Pelicans side. That's just another bump for him. And Campazzo, so many injuries in the backcourt. He's going to have to play. And he's been a solid per-minute guy. He didn't have a great game in the last one, but outside of in the games preceding that, 4 straight games over 20 points, and then a 17-point game. So pretty solid here. I only played 21 minutes in the last one, but I would expect that to climb up a little bit as well. And and now I'll jump on over to the other side. Brandon Ingram has been money lately. Without Josh Hart, he's getting a lot more ball handling responsibility and playmaking. We didn't expect Josh Hart to be one of the primary playmakers, but then you look at who was starting in the backcourt. Devontae Graham, Nicole Alexander-Walker, not known for their playmaking. They're known for shot creating for themselves, but not for others too much. So that made sense. Ingram without Hart, out Zion. Now he's getting the injuries that he had in the beginning of the year behind him. He's starting to play. Very solid matchup for him. 9-1. Don't know how much exposure I'll have to him, but I'll keep him in my player pool for the way he's been playing and the role that he should have in this game. Outside of him, not too many people that I'm going to look at this Pelicans team. Herb Jones would be an option. Garrett Temple, because he keeps getting minutes. Those two are more options if you're digging down, but not an offensive threat here. He's more of a solid defender here, so I don't mind looking at those two, though, but that there's not really much to like on the Pelicans side right now. All right, jumping on over to the last 3 games of the night. This is the first one that starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Portland Trailblazers taking on the Golden State Warriors. We have a 215 game total, and the Warriors are a whopping 14-point home favorite. On the injury report, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, both out for the Blazers. We have Cody Zeller, Anthony Simons, Macklemore, and Nasir Little all questionable. The Warriors have Andre Iguodala as questionable, Klay Thompson, James Wiseman as out. And you can see why it's a 14-point game spread. First off, the Warriors at home, not the greatest of environments for opposing teams. Second off, you're missing your star backcourt, the Splashtown Northwest brothers, as they call them. And Anthony Simons is questionable. If he plays, he will be in play at 5,200, but if he doesn't, Dennis Smith Jr., 5,800, is going to get all the run he can handle. Norman Powell now at 4,800. I know he's playing a little bit hurt. He took 24 shots in that last game, 24 at 36 fantasy points. He has to squarely be in the player pool here. With or without Anthony Simons at 4,800, that's a very, very cheap price tag for a guy like Norman Powell, who's going to just be the main focus on this team right here. Larry Nance Jr., Robert Covington make a lot of sense as well with all these injuries. 3,500 and 3,300. They have to play. Robert Covington is still starting, and somehow he's playing a decent chunk of minutes, and somehow his price tag is all the way to near bare minimum. I know he's not been the greatest offensive threat here, but the Warriors like to play small a lot. He can see center minutes, so can Larry Nance Jr. For more versatility, so I like those two guys here. Nurkic's going to be a primary scoring option here. He took 19 shots in the last one, but that's near 7K price tag in a matchup against the Warriors. Don't really love it. I would much rather stick to the value that I mentioned here. On the other side of the ball, Curry, 14-point home favorite without Lillard, McCollum. Not going to go there. It's not the safest. I guess for tournaments, sure, but cash, no way. Jordan Poole, I think will play regardless, 5,900. He should get a shot off. It's a very solid price tag. And then you're going to go for value here for me. Juan Toscano-Anderson, Gary Payton Jr., Damian Lee, they should all see extra minutes, and they could all produce under 4K. Damian Lee, back-to-back games over 20 points. So at 3-2, that's a very solid price tag, and we expect this game to not be that close, not be that competitive without the starting backcourt for Blazers. Gary Payton Jr. doesn't get a ton of minutes. This guy steals the ball so much. So at 3,500, decent option. I do prefer Lee though. And Juan Toscano-Anderson, he should play a decent chunk of minutes here. He's been hit or miss. under 4K. 2 games outside of the last one, 2 games before that, 25 and 30, nearly 35 fantasy points. So he has upside here. Him and Lee would be the primary targets for the value, with Payton mixed in here. I would go Lee, JTA, Payton in my list there. And Poole is still in there because the guy should still get minutes, and he is the primary scorer on this team. All right, jumping on over to the last game at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Orlando Magic traveling all the way across country to take on the Kings. We have a 220 game total, and the Kings are 8-point home favorites. On the injury report, Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Etuan Moore, Jalen Suggs all out. On the Kings, we have Barnes and Harkless as questionable. And that is it. I'm not sure if I mentioned. Nope, never mind. I thought I was, for a second I blanked if I said the Mavericks are on the back end of a back-to-back, but they are. I know that's another game. We'll jump on over to Orlando. They are the away team. And Cole Anthony coming off a dud of a game, but pretty much this entire team was coming off a dud of a game. They lost by over 30 points to the Warriors in Golden State. What do you expect? Yeah, so I do like the bounce back for Cole Anthony. He probably won't be owned much after that dud of a game, so I like to take chances on him as a contrarian play for lower ownership. I did mention a few guys that I like in this range, so I won't be all over him, but I like him. I think that's a solid price tag here. The Kings aren't the greatest defenders. We know that they've always struggled in the last however many years against shooting guards, with Luke Walton in the coaching booth. But I know he's not there anymore. No, Cole Anthony's not a shooting guard, but this is still a good matchup for him to bounce back here. He was playing really well before his injury, and he was playing really well when he came back for a couple games. I just had a dud of a game, as everybody on this team did. I expect to bounce back. Franz Wagner. I shouldn't say everybody had a dud, because this guy continues to pile up points. I'm not sure how he's still under 6K when, if you look at his recent game log, it's just all value. He's hit 35, then 35, 33, 43, 32, 28, 31. I'm not sure. He hasn't climbed. He went down $200 after putting up a 35-point fantasy point outing against the Warriors. So Franz Wagner certainly in my player pool here. He continues to hit and beat value, and as does Gary Harris to a lesser degree at 3,900. No Jalen Suggs. He's still starting, still getting near 30 or over 30 minutes, and he's hitting 25, 20 points here each time. You look at his game log. The last 5 games, over 20, 21 fantasy points. And 6 out of the last 7 games, same, over 20-something fantasy points. Under 4K, continues to hit value. He'll continue to be in my player pool because of it. Not the hugest upside, of course, but certainly value here, especially in cash games. That's very nice. Breath of fresh air. On the other side of the ball, we have a lot of people to like here. There is, you're going against the Magic, not the greatest defensive team. They are 14-point home favorites, or 8-point home favorites, though. But this is tied for the half a point under the highest projected total of the night. I like Fox in this matchup, but he hasn't been producing great, so he's not safe for cash. He'd be more tournament play for me, and I probably won't have as much exposure to him than other guys here. With that said, Rashawn Holmes, I expect to bounce back here, 6,300, very solid price tag. If Barnes is good, I know he's questionable for this one, but if he's good to go at 5,300 and he's good to go his normal allotment of minutes, which was a lot, yeah, that's a fantastic price tag for him. So he'll definitely get me some Harrison Barnes if he is good to go in this one. Marvin Bagley, 4,100, had a double-double in the last game. Looking good. He played 20 minutes. Still not the role that we want, but they won by 5. They beat the Clippers by 5 points. He had a double-double. I can get behind that $4,100 price tag there. I do prefer Barnes as my favorite on this on this team at 5,300, but that's assuming he does play. If he doesn't play, that'll change some things around. Terrence Davis jumps back in at 3,800. Madu at 48. But Harrison Barnes is, I think he's closer to playing than not, and that price tag is juicy. All right, jumping on over to the last game of the night. we have the Boston Celtics taking on the Los Angeles Clippers. We have a 212.5 game total, and the Clippers are 3-point home favorites. The Celtics are on the back end of a back-to-back, so we don't have an injury report for them. But the Clippers have Keon Johnson, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Preston all out, and Nicholas Batum as questionable. And let's start with the Celtics. Jason Tatum, 10-6. I'm probably not just going to have... for the most part, I'm going to leave the Celtics alone. Jaylen Brown should be out again. He was out for Tuesday. I would assume he's coming in questionable. Probably going to miss this one. If he does, makes it very easy for me. I'm going to leave the Celtics alone. If he doesn't, it makes it somewhat less easier for me. But I'm still going to leave the Celtics alone. Jason Tatum in a solid spot here, but there's so many other options at that price tag that I like more, feel more comfortable with. And everybody else, I think their price tags reflect not the greatest of upside there. On the other side of the ball, similar scenario. I'm not really going to touch Paul George. I like other options in that price tag. Reggie Jackson's been coming down to earth. Don't hate him, but there's going to be some tough defense from Marcus Smart over there on him in particular. The center position is fluid. Marcus Smart Sr. would be the one guy I'm looking at 4,800. Seeing Nick Batum as questionable, likely out for this one. He has been starting to play better. He's been coming around. He missed a lot of time. We know that. Back-to-back games of 30-plus fantasy points under 5K. We can continue to look at them, and he's in a good matchup here to beat that price tag once again. That's pretty much it for that last game. And that's pretty much it for all of our games. We hit on every team. Did a quick rundown with this one. And I guess I can do my favorite player tiers here. All right. We'll start with the pay up. My favorite high-priced guy of the night. We'll go to one of the higher or we'll do one high, one medium high. I think Joel Embiid would be the guy I'm looking at. It's just a fantastic matchup. I know they played these guys the other night. He played 41 minutes. He put up 74 fantasy points, nearly 75. Honestly, he's probably going to be higher owned because of it, but that upside is well within reach once again. I mean, there is no Miles Plumlee. There's a lot of people on Charlotte. I'm the only one by 3, but you're seeing Nick Richards and PJ Washington as his primary defenders. There's not even a Jaden McDaniels there. So that is, one's too small, one's not good. Easy for Joel Embiid. And lower high-priced guy, I think Zach LaVine. I mentioned that I'm probably not going to have much exposure to him just because the price is baked in. But for cash games, I think 10.5 is very solid for him. So that's more for cash there. All right, we're going to jump on over to the value plays of the night. So under 8K, and there's a lot of guys, but I'll stick to that first game. Gordon Hayward at 7.6 on one of the higher priced mid-tier guys, 7.6. We saw Point Hayward come out in the last one. Didn't hit a lot of shots, but 9 assists is what I was hoping for to see and what I am glad to see. That is music to our ears. He's not gonna shoot so poorly from the field this one. And if he continues to play Point Hayward like he had in the past, whether it was on Utah, Celtics for a little bit, that is something that we would love to see continue. And we should see continue with all of the people out on this squad. And for value, I think we have a ton of value to choose from here. It's probably going to fluctuate throughout the night too. So with 13 games, obviously the injury report that we have in the morning on Wednesday is going to change. So continue to keep out for value. But as of right now, I think AU at 3,900. I got someone under 4K, but AU at under 4K makes a lot of sense. He should see a ton of minutes in this one. We don't have DeRozan. We don't have Caruso. We don't have Javonte Green. Patrick Williams is out for the year. AU under 4K makes a ton of sense to me. Derek Jones Jr. is only a couple hundred more. He's over 4K. I'll split him in there. He's another option here, but I was going under 4K, and AU makes a lot of sense now. But that can change. There are people that are going to be popping up, but right now, I think his value is just there. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another edition of DFS Today. We will catch you again tomorrow. Peace.
Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% US-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast. It's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.